My name is Eva Ettinger, and I am a ballerina, and I'm working towards becoming a physician. Growing up, I was raised by fantastic parents. They have been the greatest role models in my life, and they've always taught me to stay true to myself, work hard, and be kind and giving to others. And I was born as a normal, healthy baby, and when I was 1 year old, my mom took me to a routine checkup with my pediatrician just for a cold, and the pediatrician heard a slight heart murmur. My mom had no idea what a heart murmur was. She had never really even heard of one, and I was immediately referred to a pediatric cardiologist, Dr. Terry King, and I was diagnosed with an atrial septal defect at 15 months old. And I think in that moment for my parents and my family, it was devastating because they saw me on the outside as a healthy, normal baby, but on the inside, my heart was saying something different. They knew that in order for me to have the best life possible, I was going to have a repair and have open heart surgery. The heart surgery went smoothly. My heart had a deformity, and it was fixed to the best of their ability. I still, to this day, have a slight heart murmur. But it was kind of after the heart surgery where the trouble came in. The doctors came in and they told everyone that they were preparing for my death. I was put on a heart-lung machine. You know, every time my mom tells the story, she just bawls her eyes out and cries, thinking about it. And I think all they could do in that moment was pray. And they called friends and family up in Ruston, and it started a prayer chain. And I firmly believe it was God's hand coming down upon me and His will being shown, because my vitals began to improve and I was getting stronger and I was pulling through. And it truly was a miracle in that moment that God spared my life and that I'm here today. I think growing up, I didn't truly understand what it meant to be a CHD survivor, a congenital heart defect survivor. And I always had my giant scar growing up, and I kind of became aware of it in elementary school because people would ask me about it all the time. And there were moments where I kind of felt shame, and I felt, like there was something wrong with me because I was different. But as I matured and kind of faced the different challenges of life, I realized that this was so much more of a blessing than a burden, and that when I began to share my story, I began to find a greater purpose in telling others and connecting with families and children that had the same thing that I had and still have to this day. I began dancing when I was 3 years old, and I immediately fell in love with it. I think my mom had to drag me out of the dance studio every single week because I wanted to stay. When I was in 6th grade, I was diagnosed with scoliosis, and it was very minor at that point in my life. My curvature was very minor. And then progressively over the next few years, it advanced. And in 8th grade, my mother and my father took me to an orthopedic surgeon, and he said that I was going to need scoliosis surgery. A back brace would not benefit me, and that it had progressed so quickly that surgery was pretty much my only option. And that was extremely devastating news to me because I found joy in dance and being at the dance studio and being told that a part of you is going to be taken away and you might never get it back again was very hard for me to handle. But my back gave me so much pain, and I knew in the long run, for the betterment of my life, that I would need surgery. It was a very, very difficult time in my life, especially the recovery. The surgery went smoothly, but post-surgery was whenever I hit a few lows, and I didn't quite understand why I had to go through this and why it had to be me. It was a very low time, and I thank my parents for being there because they have been the biggest supporters and biggest encouragers I've ever had. So I was told that I was not going to be able to do physical activity for 6 months. Around 4 weeks after my surgery, I was bedbound most of the time, and I slowly began stretching and slowly began doing those small things that I knew were going to be beneficial for me to go back to dance. And I was back at the ballet bar shortly after that. Could barely bend forward, but I was doing it. And over the years, I gained my strength back. There were some things that I was not able to do, but I eventually became a better dancer than I was before. I have been able to live an extremely normal life, even though I've been given terrible news at several points throughout my life. I think ultimately the message from my obstacles is that you never need to give up, and that God is always going to find a will, and He's always going to find a way. And even through the really dark moments where you feel like there isn't much hope left, and you don't exactly see His will, He's always going to be there, and He's always by your side, and He's always holding your hand. And be proud of everything that you've been faced with, because you're touching lives and you're growing as a person, and your journey through life is truly just beginning, and that's how I feel about my life. My name is Eva Ettinger. I am a ballerina, and I am a surgeon.